Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome to today's video. So this is going to be part 3 of the Halloween Spooktacular Challenge tournaments. I guess I should point out here that if you guys haven't noticed yet, they did pick the most Halloween-y factions to do these with. So the Corrupted Alliance, so the Demon Spawn, Undead Hordes, Dark Elves, and Night Revenants. So I would not be surprised if in a few days' times we're going to see some news about an Undead Horde Ice Golem. That would be the 4th out of the 4 factions for the Corrupted Alliance. But today we are focusing on the Dragon, and specifically Knight's Revenant faction for using in the Dragon. So just like the previous 2 iterations, there is no Void Shard here on the rewards on the right, but there is the opportunity for Relentless. Now in terms of difficulty, I would say that this tournament is kind of in the middle between the previous 2. Dragon is the easiest dungeon, but Knight's Rev is really easy to do it with if you have the right champions, but if you don't, then it's still relatively easy to do. You just have to do a lower stage. But those of you who are well aware of the types of champions in this faction, you're going to know that a lot of these people who are already done or nearly done are going to be probably the ones running solo comps with Tomb Lord and or Theodore, or some combination of that in Calvalax as well. So as before, I do recommend that you check your group just to see if it's an easy group or a hard group. It's going to be a crapshoot depending on the quality of each individual's champions and whether or not it's compatible with this tournament. But like I said, this is still going to be relatively easy to do on a lower stage with champions from the Night Rev, even epics as well, just because it is the Dragon's Lair. It is the easiest dungeon by far, and especially if you're doing normal mode, he doesn't hit ridiculously hard, and as long as you have some forms of DPS, you can still do damage to the boss regardless of whether or not you have poisons. Hopping over to the Dragon's Lair, we can talk about the recommended stages. Now this is the first time where I will actually say that trying hard mode if you have the right champions is honestly not a bad idea, because it is possible. Like I said, Dragon is the easiest of the 4 main dungeons, and so you can get away with doing hard mode lower levels, not necessarily hard mode 10, but you can get away with doing the lower levels if you just have a decent amount of good quality champions who can handle the boss, primarily poisoners in this instance. But if you feel like you're not in that category, and we'll talk about my champions that I'm going to be using as well as substitutions as well. If you feel like you're not in that category, then of course drop down back into normal mode. Try to get to the higher stages 24, 25, but if all else fails, stage 20, tried and true, always works. It is also the most efficient from an energy perspective, best points per energy. And then of course, as we always mention, stage 16, you can still get 6-star, not 4-star. Well, you do get 4-star gear, but you can still get 6-star gear, and it's usually really quick because it's stage 16. However, this is a turn attack tournament, so you will take the penalty for you doing a lower stage, even if you can do it relatively quickly. So weigh the pros and cons, look at your champion pool, look at your group, and see what is right for you. Now I feel I must apologize in advance, because in this case I am fortunate to have a lot of the S tier champions for this particular endeavor, and so I was able to do stage hard mode 6. So you could look at that team here, 4-man squad. We have Theodore, Calvalax, Tomb Lord, basically every single poisoner in the faction, and then Rector just to keep them alive. Now, of course, if I was going the solo/duo type strategies, I could just build the champions in regen, and then they'd be able to handle that without Rector being in there, because I could just tank the hits of the Dragon. However, I'm personally not a huge fan of solo duo strategies. I prefer full teams when I can help it. Obviously, this is not a full team, but the 5th slot really didn't help for all the testing that I did, and so I ended up just dropping the person. I could put food in there, but I don't really think that's necessary. There is a champion training tournament starting tomorrow, but I'm not really going to be fussed about that. I'd rather them just run a bit faster and skip out on the little bit of animations from that person being revived constantly by Rector. So mainly because it's customary, I will show you the team in action just so you can see it, but I fully 1000% understand that majority of you, if not all of you, won't be able to replicate this. So don't worry about that. Again, find the appropriate stage for yourself and try it if you can, depending on the difficulty of your group. So pretty standard here. We're just going to layer them, stack them with poisons, a little bit of activation from Theodore. So we have poison from Calvalax's passive, we have poison from Theodore's active, and we have poisons from Tomb Lord's active as well. So we're guaranteed to fill the debuff bar with poisons, and Theodore also has a little bit of poison activation, so we don't really have to worry about them taking turns at all, to be honest. So again, stacking them with poisons and poison sensitivity as well, and then we should be able to come around eventually to Theodore's second ability there, where you can do that again. So basically doing that puts them all to half health, and then once they get their turn, the rest of the poison ticks, and then they just die. So pretty straightforward, and yeah, pseudo poison explosion. It's more of a poison and weight, a little bit of poison explosion, I guess, with Theodore, but poison and weight type composition. So about a minute to get to the boss. Same thing, Calvalax throws out poisons. We have Tomb Lord putting some debuffs, and we're just stacking him with poisons. So pretty straightforward composition, not much to it. And again, Rector is in there because I don't run my champions in regen gear or anything like that, so they can definitely die if the dragon hits too hard, or if Tomb Lord gets resisted. He is important because he does provide decreased attack, more so than decreased defense. Decreased attack is more important. We have nothing to deal with the boss giving himself increased attack, so that's just something I just live with, and we just tank the hits. He's not strong enough to really kill a Rector. It's, I guess, possible if I just get the bad RNG and everything gets resisted and he hits really, really hard with a crit or something. I guess it could happen, but more likely than not, we're going to get a run like this. And this is actually my fastest run. There you go, 61 turns, 50 points. So I'm pretty happy with this team. I'm not going to worry too much about it. And as long as it doesn't wipe, I think I'm good to go. So as usual, let's go ahead and take a look at the builds on the champions featured in this team. Once again, this is not meant for you to necessarily copy the builds on these champions if you do happen to have them, but morely just so you understand why they work. So at the top of the list, we do have my Theodore, who I was lucky enough to get a 4-star soul for long before I pulled him, actually, but he is rocking the Brimstone, of course, so the extra stats. And I must say, I did recently rebuild him a little bit because of the bonus in the Faction Guardians that I got from the shard pull a few days ago. But so I was able to work in the Immortal set. He used to be in double perception and resist. So now we have Immortal, perception, and resist set going in. Total stats here, beefy, tanky boy, 65k on the HP, 3,200 on the defense, 242 on the speed. Don't care about the damage. Then 458 on the resistance, so very high. I do also use him in Hydra, but he is one of my poisoners for normal mode dragon, or for hard mode dragon normally, and so he just needs good resistance so he doesn't get debuffed, and then he can also has enough accuracy to place the poisons 375 on the high stage of hard mode here. And I've totally been forgetting the past couple of videos, so you guys need to get on me about this more when I forget, but I forget to show the masteries if I do have them. In this case, I do have them. I went down the defense and support tree because I do intend to eventually use him for Ice Golem, so I do not want War Master in the build. And I came all the way down to Oppressor, which just gives him slightly faster turn meter filling when he places all the debuffs, and he does place a lot with all of the poisons coming in his kit. Next up, we have Calvalax, also in Brimstone. I do use this one primarily in Spider, and I did tweak his build as well. Same story, they're all nice Revenant. I did get the bonus of 30 accuracy, 30 resistance, so I did tweak his build a little bit. So Cruel, switched him into Cruel. He was in double perception and crit damage, but nonetheless built to deal damage. So overall here, 27k, horribly low on the HP. His base is pretty low too, but we did build him for damage. We don't care about his survivability. 4.8k on the attack, just under 5,000. 223 on the speed, so pretty quick. Full crit rate, 253 on the crit damage, and then 340 just below, but just around enough accuracy to consistently land poisons on all hard mode content. Next up, we have Tomb Lord, one of my OG legendaries on the account in perception and the defense set, because his defense is pretty low, so the stats just kind of worked out. But he has 51,000, almost 52,000 HP, 3.4k attack, 2,300 on the defense, 253 on the speed, full crit rate because you do need the crit to apply all the poisons on the A2, a little bit of crit damage, 131, and then enough accuracy to do the job, 388. And last but not least, we do have Rector Drath here, featured in a reflex set and a speed set. Funnily enough, I just finished her reflex set about like maybe 1 to 2 months ago, and I was working on that for so long, farming as much Ice Golem as possible to finally get this done, and I was able to do it. So super happy with how her build turned out. So let's take a look at it. 60,000 on the HP, a little over. Just under 3k on the defense. We don't care about her attack. She's a support. 275, very fast. But that's partially because of the speed set, but also just the reflex set has some good speed rolls. So 275 on the speed, don't care about her damage, and then stacked with as much resistance as possible, 507. And even after reminding myself, I totally forgot to look at the masteries again. So Calvalax, fully mastered offense and support tree, coming down to flawless execution, just to increase the damage of his pseudo enemy max HP hit that deals damage scaling with a number of poisons. Tomb Lord, similar build, offense and support, Master Hexer, etc., coming all the way down to Giant Slayer because he does have a triple hitter on the A1. And Rector Drath, We went all the way down to Unshakable for the extra resistance, a little bit of counterattacking from Retribution, and just kind of all of the healing and HP masteries with a bit of Lore of Steel as well, and lasting gifts for the Veils and continuous heals that she provides. So let's talk substitutions for the Knight Revenant faction. So as I mentioned, I pretty much covered or showcased all of the poisoners, the most viable poisoners in the faction in my composition. However, I do always want to take this moment to talk directly to Plarium in case they're totally not watching, but in case they are, I'd like to mention that Narma, she needs a buff, guys. She needs a buff. She's a pretty decent champion who has a lot of potential, but she's been power crept. She's used to be really good for a Demon Lord clan boss, but she's kind of on par with the Frozen Banshee, which is not good as far as the legendary is concerned. But single target here, decrease attack, but also heals, depending on, I guess the heal increases with the for each poison on the target, which is really good because she does provide poisons herself, 3 poisons with poison sensitivity on a single target. This probably could be an AoE nowadays, even though it's a 4-turn cooldown. Probably could be AoE nowadays if they were to buff her. And then what's really cool on the A1 here, it has a chance of increasing 3 random debuffs on the target by 1 turn. I also think this could probably be better. This could just be all debuffs to keep the chance the same, or maybe drop it down a little bit. But I think she needs some love, she needs a buff, but nonetheless, she is the other poisoner in this faction. And then honorable mention to Walking Tomb Drang, HP burn. It's not as strong as Poison versus the Dragon, but it is better than, potentially better than just raw attacks. So if you have Drang, you can still burn the waves, which can help do DPS there, but also do DPS on the boss. When it comes to debuffers, it's pretty slim pickings, but you do have Tomb Lord, which I highlighted, decrease defense, decrease attack. But the more accessible version, well, maybe not version, but the more accessible champion would be Thylesia, who does have basically super War Maiden here, AoE decrease defense, and it's 100% chance without being booked, which is worth noting here. So you technically can run her unbooked as long as you can handle it being on a 4-turn cooldown, which would be the same as Tomb Lord, by the way. But so you don't necessarily need to book her. It is 100% chance unbooked, which is pretty nice, just like War Maiden. And for the supports, I would say Eric's is good, honorable mention. I could have put her in, I guess my team didn't need it. Like I said, the 5th slot, I didn't really need it, but if I was going to put someone in there, it would have been her or someone else who could do some CC, but it just turns out I didn't need it. But it's really hard hitting AoE A1, which is pretty strong. AoE on the A2, which is a stun, and then places counterattack and ally protection on herself. So she can be a protector for your team, but also come back and hit more with the A1 with the counterattack. And also it can remove a random buff on each target. So pretty solid champion, fairly underrated. You have to play for a long time to get her, but Eric's is definitely good if you need the support. Versal the Grim, pretty strong, as well as another supportive champion, ally protection and increased defense on all allies, plus the leech and a chance to place provoke on the A1 as well as his passive. So super solid there. I kind of alluded to him, Miscreated Monster, epic version of Eric's. You can think of him that way. Ally protection here with the continuous heal on himself. So he heals himself and protects the team. And he also, if you attack enemies while under AP, then he has a chance to fear them. So a little bit of soft CC there. And also the hard CC on the A2 ability here, which places a shield depending on the based on the damage inflicted. And also the A1 also has another chance to stun. So 2 stunning abilities, really solid support champion. Another mention would be Senesha, because she has an AoE on the A1, so you could run her in a stun set. She has this cool lockout ability here. It's single target. It's also a heal, by the way. And then this cool ability here, which is kind of like Walking Tomb Drang's. I guess it's essentially Walking Tomb Drang's, where it'll balance HP to the level of the highest person or person with the highest HP. So it can be a massive heal if you have someone in regen or someone who's staying alive really easily. You can bring your low HP people way back up to near full HP. Speaking of healing, Rector Drath, one of the best healers in the game. 20% of her max HP here. Also places a Veil if they're 100% HP afterward. 4-turn cooldown on the revive with the Veil, and then increases your resistance while under a Veil, which is nice. And also Veil decreases the damage you take from AoE attacks. I think it's 7.5% for normal Veil and 15% for a perfect Veil. Decrease attack on the A1 if you decide to build her with accuracy. And then last mention is a relatively new champion, which is came in with the last fusion, which is Malkith. He's another option for a reviver. And then this is 2 random allies. The Rector is just a single ally, so both on a 4-turn cooldown. So that if you have multiple people dying, and this is a good champion for regen, for example, he can definitely be your reviver for the team and help you pick people up. And I guess it would be worth mentioning that if you are working on the lower stages, then Whisper is one of the best champions in the game that can kind of deal damage to bosses, mainly because of her passive here. She just does 20% more damage to bosses, but also being able to grant extra turns on this ability, potential on this ability here if the conditions are met, decrease defense and weaken. And then she also gives herself increased attack and increased crit rate, so you don't necessarily have to build her with full crit rate as well. So she can do massive damage to bosses. So if you're running stage 16, stage 20, even 24, 25, she can just come in there because it's not an enemy max HP hit, so the damage is not capped. So if you build her in the right way, she can definitely do a ton of damage to the dragon. So honorable mention there to Whisper if you happen to have her and you can employ that strategy. So yeah, that's going to do it for the core of this video talking about the Knights Revenant Dragon Turn Attack Tournament. I would like to take a moment here though to kind of discuss all of the tournaments going on. I definitely can understand with a lot of people that it might feel like it's a bit overwhelming, especially because the Turn Attack tournaments are overlapping instead of being end to end. And so that's like the spider attack or the dragon one started before the spider one ended. So if you're not done with spider, you feel like, I need to finish that first before I get to this and that. So this is a great opportunity, particularly if you're not trying to go hard or if you're trying to go for a lower milestone in the Halloween Titan event, that take this time to pick and choose which of the tournaments and events you want to participate in. You don't necessarily have to do everything unless you're trying to go all the way to the end of the Titan event. So you don't have to do any of these tournaments. It's just more of elective if you want to get the points, or if you want to participate in some of the drop fevers going on. Like there is 3 times on speed, so you could just run a normal dragon team right now and it's still a great time to be running dragon. You don't have to limit yourself to the Knights Revenant for the sake of the tournament. But the takeaway here is just pick and choose. You don't have to necessarily participate in everything 100% of the time. And again, there's also the Classic Arena, I guess that's easy to do, but there's also a champion training tournament starting tomorrow, so there's even more reasons to be using energy right now. And I think it's depending on your level, you can get some of the epics for the Lady Mikage fusion. I think in my tier it's going to be Tatsu, which fun fact, Tatsu was probably one of the last legendary champions offered in a champion training tournament specifically. So this is, I guess, the first one to be offered twice. Maybe that might not be the case. I don't know enough of the super old raid history, but yeah. So don't let yourself be overwhelmed by all the tournaments and events going on. Pick and choose which ones you want to participate in and put your energy there. Let me know in the comment section down below if you are going to be participating in this specific tournament, the Dragon Turn Attack with the Knights Rev, and let me know what team you're going to be running and what stage you're going to make it up to. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below, and if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content just like this one. I guess one other thing to mention is that we are getting really close to 800 subscribers on the channel out of the 1,000 goal for the end of the year. So if you have not subscribed yet, then I implore you to subscribe to the channel if you are enjoying the content, because we are getting so close to the goal and the year is coming to an end fairly soon. So hopefully we can get there. And if you want to help out, then hit that subscribe button. Last plug, thanks for watching and have a good one.